Hello there, everybody. I hope you all had a wonderful work week. So is TikTok's clock ticking? I mean, there's been a whole chock-a-block of TikTok this week. Yeah, I did just do that. Sorry about that. Anyway, the big question is, will TikTok be banned? The headlines are full of alarmist headlines like TikTok ban, it's here, and Americans sound off on TikTok ban in viral rants, and predictably, content creators and influencers who make their living off of TikTok, well,
this is our livelihood. If you pass this bill, you will be destroying the American dream.
They're having a toxic freakout right about now about having to get a part-time job, or also spreading misinformation about what parent company ByteDance can and can't do and what the Chinese government will or won't do. So let's do something wacky for the internet and actually look at these challenges through the lens of, practicality? Anyway, you want to know a little more on our take on all this? Well, this is a few minutes of what's new in marketing that will help you lead your business strategy. We're marketers. Of course we're going to talk about TikTok. Let's roll. Hello, everybody. Robert Rose here with What's New in Marketing. It is what's new in marketing, but most importantly, it's something we think may help you become a better marketing leader. And if we can help you become a better marketing leader with custom training, consultation, ongoing implementation of your content marketing approach, get on over to contentmarketinginstitute.com and let us know, won't you? We'd love to chat. Now, in what would normally be a week dominated by the fact that Beyoncé has revealed her new album cover for Cowboy Carter, well, the content world has been on fire this week with talks of TikTok and whether or not it will be banned if it can't sell itself. So if you somehow missed all the kerfuffle, last week the United States House of Representatives, collectively known as your Congress critters, well, they passed a House resolution bill that is now making its way over to the Senate. And the bill would effectively ban the app TikTok if it can't sell itself to something the American government decides is, kind of cool. So because I love you all, I went and read House Resolution Bill 7521, that's the TikTok bill, and I read it so you don't have to. And in all honesty, in less than 2,000 words, it's pretty short. But it's definitely written in that political legalese, so it's not the most entertaining of reads. So let's first break down the summary, and to make it slightly more entertaining, I'll invoke my inner Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High and explain exactly what the bill says in as simple a way as possible. Check it out. Like right now, TikTok, it's controlled by those dudes in China. I mean, they're one of the uncoolest of the 5 uncool countries, and we don't even trust them at all. So they either got to sell themselves to somebody the president of the U.S. says is, cool, or it's going to be like Bummer City, and they'll have to get the full slam and be nada in the U.S. I'm not even sure what to say about all that, but okay, you get it, right? Basically, TikTok has to divest itself of its Chinese control, or it'll get banned in the U.S. And even if it does divest itself, well, there's a new wrinkle that they have to give everybody access to all of their content and data. Now let's break that down and talk about what the likeliest outcomes from all of this might be. So first of all, would a ban even be enforceable? I mean, if you've been on the internet for any amount of time, you might be wondering how the heck the government in the U.S. would even enforce such a ban. I mean, how do you block an app the size of TikTok? Well, the bill doesn't actually ban TikTok. What it does is to actually make helping ByteDance distribute TikTok content an infraction that is subject to a civil lawsuit penalty, and that would come from the Attorney General. So they wouldn't actually go after ByteDance. I mean, if they ban it, there's nothing to go after, right? But what the bill says is that they give permission to the Attorney General to sue companies, and maybe like Oracle, who currently hosts the TikTok data, or Apple or Google, who currently make it available in their app marketplace, or Comcast or Spectrum or Verizon or AT&T, who provide bandwidth and the data across their pipes. They explicitly cannot go after any individual user or employee or even owner of TikTok for using the application. So just so we know, it's not an infraction to use the app under this bill. It's an infraction to distribute the app under this bill. Now, the penalties here are defined as $5,000 per user that uses TikTok. So with more than 100 million U.S. users, that would equate to about a $500 billion fine. And if you think that sounds a little silly and relatively unenforceable, yeah, I do too. So the second thing is, well, who the heck would buy it? Well, there are plenty of rumors about former politicians putting together investment groups, as well as rumors about big companies like Microsoft or Google or Apple that might be suitors for the new company. But just know that the act doesn't actually stipulate that the company that TikTok would divest themselves to has to be an American company. It just can't be controlled by what's called a foreign adversary country, and that means China, including Hong Kong, by the way, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. So theoretically, keep this in mind, we could have Canadian beloved actor and marketer Ryan Reynolds come in and buy TikTok, and that would be totally fine. I mean, that would be awesome. I mean, it would really be awesome. Ryan, we're looking at you. Come, save us all. Save us all, won't you? Again? Anyway, so the next wrinkle is the bill stipulates that all users would have access to their data. So if the bill passes the Senate and is ultimately signed by the president, ByteDance, regardless of what happens with the divestiture, would have to make a feature available for every single user to get an export of all their content, including images, videos, text, all of it. And if the company fails to do that, well, then it's a $500 per person civil liability. The next thing, they have time and more time. If the bill passes into law, ByteDance would have 6 months to figure out a buyer and execute the divestiture. But even if it is then banned, the bill says they can come back after 6 months. So if they can find a buyer later that the president approves of, well, they can come back. Ryan Reynolds, again, you've got time. We're looking at you. Anyway, the bill also calls out ByteDance by name. So the bill is written, by the way, so that any social media company controlled by a foreign adversary would be subject to this law. But since the latest short-form video platform for North Korea has yet to go a little viral, well, it kind of singles out TikTok in its description. I mean, they actually do call out an exception for platforms that provide, quote, product reviews and travel information, which I have to say is really oddly specific, but I haven't figured out who they might actually be protecting or referencing there. Oh, and one last thing. You may see a ton of videos going around saying that ByteDance is actually prohibited from selling itself because Chinese law prohibits the export of technology. So the argument, and this is mostly on TikTok itself, seems to be that even if they wanted to sell, they can't. Some TikTokers have even suggested that this is a conspiracy theory by American politicians who know this and are just out to ban the app outright. And well, our Congress critters, well, there are a lot of things, but yeah, this smart and Machiavellian is not one of them. I mean, it may be that politicians just want to ban the app, but it's not because it's prohibited by a Chinese law. ByteDance is actually not owned by the Chinese government. Now, its exact ownership percentages are certainly cloudy, but it's owned by a combination of international investors, its Chinese co-founders, its employees, by the way, which includes 7,000 Americans, and the Chinese government does have a 1% stake known as a golden share in Chinese law, and it's got a 1% share in ByteDance and has a board seat. So additionally, the Chinese law that the posters are referring to is this one. Yes, this one. And it's even more boring if that is possible, and it's called the Catalog of Technologies Prohibited of Restricted from Export to China. Ah, yes, the mystical Catalog of Technologies. I mean, that sounds like something out of a Harry Potter book. But anyway, to be clear, social media algorithms are not on that magical Catalog of Technologies list. So I think it's fair to say that the Chinese government will not be jumping up and down in glee to let a sale happen to launch what would ostensibly be a competitor to TikTok using their own algorithmic technology. And it may even require some sort of approval by the Chinese government. But it's also entirely plausible to think that ByteDance will continue to hide under the coattails of the government, claiming, oh, we're not allowed to sell. But to say that they're prohibited by Chinese law from doing so isn't accurate. So what's likely to happen for marketing people? Well, all in all, I think the short answer, not very much, and certainly not in the near term. I mean, the Senate hasn't even agreed to bring the bill to the Senate floor, and that means they may just delay for weeks or months. They may decide to rewrite it completely. They may decide to do nothing. This almost certainly means weeks, months, quarters, maybe years of wait and see. And it's really unlikely that ByteDance is going to do something in the meantime to change into some odd relationship with another company. So most of this is likely theater in the short term. So what this means is that ultimately, I think TikTok is much more likely to be banned than it is to be sold, which Obviously, it's not the best of news for anybody who loves the platform, but I even think that chance is quite remote. It's much more likely that after some kind of time, a more stringent deal than they already have will be struck, and probably after the U.S. elections here in 2024. As for what happens to marketers in the meantime, well, the drama playing out right now is way more impactful than the actual things going on. There is no doubt that TikTok has become one of the core, if not the core, for many B2C brands that are marketing their products and services. But B2B brands are doing it too. They're also using TikTok for paid advertising, employee advocacy, influencer marketing. I mean, our own research here at CMI, we found a significant rise of B2B marketers who use TikTok. 19% say they now use the platform. That's more than double from last year. So the key question and the key thing is, how are we aware of what's going on? If your team is just thinking about getting in or already leveraging TikTok to some small degree, it's probably still a great opportunity and a channel for you, and probably certainly will be for the foreseeable future. If your brand is one that's thinking about building out your own channel, putting a sizable investment into a deep editorial strategy on TikTok, I might be a little more circumspect. I would just be careful about how much you invest into TikTok, more than just a way to use the platform to promote your other content platforms. But by the way, I'd say that about all of the social media platforms right now. If you're using TikTok as an influencer platform, in other words, you're a content creator or an influencer, I would also suspect you may start to see a few of your colleagues, more influential creators, either leave or begin to diversify into other platforms. That may be distracting for some, and it will almost assuredly begin to put greater competition on platforms like Reels, of course that's Meta, and LinkedIn. Just remember, even if TikTok does go away tomorrow, the attention for that demand doesn't go away. It just shifts to some new or old thing that wins the battle. So just be prepared to pivot your content and your marketing to wherever that attention moves, and you'll be fine. As always, as we've said for years, the core lesson is whether you're a creator or a marketer or both, don't build your house on rented land. You never know when the ground will shift beneath your feet. But Ryan Reynolds, we're looking for you, buddy. We still need you to come through. And that's a few minutes of what's new in marketing. And if we can help you think through some of these issues, reach out, won't you? We can help. And in the meantime, remember, it's your story to tell. For now, go tell it on TikTok and tell it well. We'll see you next week.